Have you ever seen this happen? A public figure admits to doing something just awful, and then, almost immediately, you see their supporters rushing in to defend them, sometimes even telling them to be proud. It makes no sense, right? It feels like it defies all logic. But what if I told you it has almost nothing to do with logic and everything to do with the hidden wiring inside our own minds? Okay, let's get into it.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with a real-world case that is just confusing. From there, we'll unpack the powerful psychological tricks our minds play on us. Then we'll zoom out and look at the tough choices we make when judging flawed leaders. And finally, we'll dig way down into the evolutionary instincts that are still running the show today.
All right, section 1. Let's start with a situation that on the surface seems completely backwards. We're setting up a puzzle here that just doesn't seem to have a logical answer.
So just imagine this scenario for a second. A famous celebrity, someone who's been around for decades, comes forward and confesses they committed a serious sexual assault when they were a teenager. As a result, they announce they're retiring to take responsibility. Now, you'd think the reaction would be pretty somber, right? But instead, a huge wave of their supporters floods the internet, telling him, don't apologize, and even be proud. How on earth do you get to that point?
And this is where that disconnect just smacks you in the face. On one side, you've got the simple facts, an admission and a consequence. But on the other side, you have this absolutely baffling reaction. The supporters aren't just forgiving him, they're actively fighting against his act of contrition. It's not just a simple disagreement. It's like they're operating in a totally different reality.
So how does a person's mind even get there? Well, to figure that out, we have to look at the brain's own secret defense mechanisms. We're about to pull back the curtain and see the hidden psychological machinery that makes this kind of loyalty not just possible, but for some people, necessary.
First up, we've got a real classic, cognitive dissonance. This is that horrible, itchy, uncomfortable feeling you get when two of your core beliefs are at war with each other. It's like a screeching alarm going off in your head, a kind of mental pain. And our brains will do almost anything to shut that alarm off.
So the brain faces a choice. What's easier to change? Is it the belief that my hero is actually a bad person and I was wrong about them? Whew, that's tough. Or is it easier to just change the facts of the crime itself? Well, for most people, that's a no-brainer. The mind does this neat little trick where it just relabels the crime. It wasn't a crime, it was a youthful mistake. Or, hey, he was punished enough already, the debt is paid. The discomfort vanishes, not because you changed your loyalty, but because you literally rewrote reality to fit it.
Next up, in-group bias. This one is ancient, it's hardwired right into our DNA. It's the instinct to circle the wagons and protect our own. It doesn't matter if your tribe is your political party, your favorite football team, or a celebrity's fandom. The rule is always the same. We protect the people on our team, and we judge the people on the other team way, way more harshly.
And that tribal instinct has a huge consequence. For a true fan, the celebrity's confession isn't just about a personal failing. It's a loss for the team. It feels like a point on the scoreboard for the other side, the critics, the media, the haters. So that call to be proud isn't really about him at all. It's a battle cry. It means our tribe is under attack and we can't show any weakness. And finally, there's a neat little trick called moral decoupling. This is our brain's amazing ability to build a firewall right between someone's talent and their character. It's how we say, yeah, sure, what he did was terrible, but he's a brilliant actor. It's a mental loophole that lets us keep enjoying their work without feeling like we're condoning their actions. We admire the skill, and we just put the scandal over there in a locked box.
Okay, so with those psychological tools in our back pocket, let's zoom out, because this builds into a much bigger question, the classic skill versus scandal dilemma. This isn't just about actors, it's about anyone in power.
So let me just ask you, straight up, what do you value more? Perfect character or world-class competence? It's a debate that's been raging forever. And you know what? The answer usually depends on exactly what kind of leader we're talking about. I mean, just think about the difference between a president and a big tech CEO. A president's authority comes from public trust, from a sense of moral legitimacy. A scandal doesn't just look bad, it fundamentally chips away at their right to govern at all. But for a tech CEO, the main goal is profit and innovation. A personal scandal matters, yeah, but mostly, if it tanks the stock price. We demand morality from our symbolic leaders, and we demand results from our business leaders.
So whenever we judge a leader who's done something wrong, we're subconsciously running this whole complex calculation in our heads. First we ask, was the crime actually relevant to their job? I mean, a CFO who embezzles is a lot different from one who has an affair. Then we wonder, are they replaceable? Sometimes we put up with awful behavior from a genius because we feel like we just can't afford to lose them. Is their role built on public trust? And finally, has enough time gone by for us to believe they've actually changed?
Okay, this brings us to section 4. We're going to go even deeper now. We've talked psychology, but now let's talk about the deep, evolutionary wiring that makes all of this happen in the first place.
So let me introduce you to this idea called the cognitive miser. Basically, our brain is fundamentally lazy. Not in a bad way, it's just efficient. It evolved to save energy. Thinking really hard about complex stuff burns a ton of calories. So to save on fuel, the brain loves to use shortcuts in simple categories.
And you can see exactly how this leads straight to bias. We run into some complicated social issue, our brain, the cognitive miser, goes, whoa, this is way too much work. So what does it do? It falls back on the simplest, most energy-efficient shortcut it has. Are they on my team or are they on their team? And the second that label gets slapped on, a totally different set of moral rules just kicks into place.
And this drive for efficiency, well, it has a really dark side. Once we've sorted everyone into us and them, the brain takes another shortcut. It starts to see the other group as, well, a little less human. It's a process called dehumanization. Studies actually show that when we see someone as part of an opposing tribe, our brains subconsciously attribute less complex human emotion to them. We literally perceive them as having less of a mind, which makes it frighteningly easy to justify treating them badly.
All of this brings us to our last stop, and honestly, it's a pretty uncomfortable one. Let's pull all these threads together and ask a really tough question. When it's all said and done, is politics just a game of power?
There was this political theorist, Carl Schmitt, who had a pretty bleak take on things. He basically argued that the core of politics isn't about right versus wrong or good versus evil. No, he said the single most fundamental political act is simply distinguishing between friend and enemy, figuring out who is us and who is them. That's it.
And if you even start to accept that idea, the implications are chilling. It suggests that maybe our most important ideals, things like justice, fairness, human rights, they might not be the universal principles we want them to be. Instead, they can become weapons we use to attack our enemies and shields we use to protect our friends.
So, I guess this is the final thought I want to leave you with. If our brains are literally built on ancient shortcuts that push us towards tribalism, and if politics itself is really just a battle between us and them, then how do we ever break out of that cycle? What does it actually take to overcome our own wiring and see the world and all the people in it clearly?